Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis of current affairs which are published in the Delhi edition of Hindu newspaper and are equally relevant for your UPSC preparation. Articles dated 7th of December 2021 are listed on your screen and the timestamping for these articles is already given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day. So the first article for today's discussion was published on page 7 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper. Writer of this article has talked about the possible way forwards in order to remove the malnutrition from India. Based on this article, we have clubbed together many of the suggestions given by the author himself, and we have also provided some of the observations made by the different organizations both at national and international level in relation to the malnutrition. Well, when we talk about malnutrition, it is classified into three different categories. The first one is overnutrition, the second is undernutrition, and third one is deficiency of micronutrients or micronutrition. Previously, government was targeting the first two approach, that is overnutrition and undernutrition. It started with targeting the undernutrition, that is, it was completely dealing with the concept of ending hunger in India. Most of the schemes of the state government as well as the central government such as public distribution system and the distribution of ration from ration shops was based on eliminating hunger in India and hunger which is guided by the poverty. However, after the launching of Millennium Development Goals and now the Sustainable Development Goals at international level, Government of India has started focusing on the overnutrition as well as the concept of deficiency in micronutrients. And that is one of the reason why India has started many programs like FSSAI has already started the fortification of many edible products including oil, wheat and rice. And not only this, government has also diversified most of its schemes and programs in order to bring the diversity in the food products delivered to the poor population. Well, if we look into the malnutrition situation in India, these are the important facts which you should remember in order to write a good answer in your mains examination. As per the Food and Agricultural Organization, 14.5% of India's population is undernourished. The rest is either overnourished or has deficiency in micronutrients. India recently slipped to 101st position in Global Hunger Index 2021 out of 116 countries. In 2020, the position of India was 94th. Hence, we can say because of the pandemic, India has been on the path of dismal performance as far as hunger is concerned. As per the report given by the Indian Council of Medical Research, major contributing factors behind the death of children below the age of 5 was the malnutrition. Because either they are not breastfeeded or if they are breastfeeded, they are not supplemented with the enough food material including the micronutrients. In fact, UNICEF, under its own report, has said that 38% of the children younger than 5 in India are stunted. 40% of the children in ST, SC, and OBC classes are also stunted. And this is because of the high ratio of poverty among these sections of society who are marginalized. As per UNICEF report, India is on the 10th spot among the countries with highest number of underweight children. That is, as per the age of a particular child, the weight of that child is not adequate. UNICEF has also supported another report in which it has said that India holds 17th position as far as stunted children in the world is concerned. And lastly, even the states like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh has the highest percentage of underweight childbirth in India. And if you take the example of Uttar Pradesh, which is the highest population holding state in the country, you will find that this state does not only have percentage as the highest criteria, but also in terms of absolute criteria. Absolute here simply means the number of children who are underweight is also highest as far as absolute numbers are concerned. All these are important for your answer writing in the mains examination, so pay special attention to these data. If we go through the data which was provided by National Family Health Survey 5th, which was published recently, this survey was also made as the base for the discussion in this article which was published in the newspaper. So if we go through this survey, we'll find that between 2005 to between 2015-16, there was an improvement in most of the parameters. However, when we move from 15-16 to 19-20, we'll find that there is a sudden decline in most of the parameters and there is a dismal performance also. Although there is a very incredible rise as far as institutional birth in the country are concerned. So from 38% 15 years ago, now we are finding that 88% of women are getting institutional deliveries, which has reduced the maternal mortality rate as well as to an extent infant mortality rate. On the other hand, we find that the considerable decline which was seen in the case of underweight children has not been achieved in the last 5 years per se. And to the surprise, the children who are under 5 and are severely wasted has increased in a percentage term, which is a sign of concern for India. Even on the criteria of children under 5 who are wasted, we find that in the last 15 years we have not made any considerable progress. And lastly, the children who are under 5 and are stunted also does not see a considerable improvement. So a duration of 15 years has not brought a considerable rise in the improvement of children who are under 5 and suffering from undernourishment, underweight, wasted and malnourished. So all this data proves that the poor section of India's society, especially those who are belonging to ST, SC and OBC classes, are suffering from the extreme poverty, and lack of adequate services provided at their doorstep has created a situation which is more a concern rather than a matter to cheer. And this also requires government to look into the most important and flagship programs such as PDS or Poshan Abhiyan to have better outreach approach as well as target at a universal rate. Even then, we also require a high level of monitoring both in central as well as decentralized manner. According to this article, author has given these important suggestions. The first one is the data driven planning. According to this, if government wants to plan strategize for the future, they should plan and strategize based on the data which is collected at a decentralized manner. This will also provide, according to the author, the level of good governance as far as health is concerned. As you know, health is an important parameter for your General Studies Paper 2 and General Studies Paper 3. This is also important for your essay paper in UPSC. Hence, these kind of way forwards are important for your mains answer writing to a larger extent. Regularly monitoring exclusive breastfeeding till the infant is 6 months old is to be targeted at a universal rate. Despite having 88% of the institutional deliveries, India is yet to achieve the same level as far as breastfeeding for the first 6 months is concerned. Take home ration should become a regular norm for those children who are under 3 through regular supply of supplementary nutrition from the ICDS approach. We also need to have live web-based centrally monitored data in order to look into the movement of dry ration to Anganwadis as well as to the schools. And this online monitoring will bring larger extent of accountability to the programs. Factors such as drought, floods, and other disasters, as well as the distress migration which we saw during the case of COVID-19 pandemic, should also become a regular part of bringing access allocation of food grains to these people who are vulnerable to hunger. And lastly, we should change the objective of PDF from just hunger mitigation that we have been following in the past 3 decades to nutritional security, that too with diversification of food items as well as intensification of accessibility. Through this, according to the author, we'll be able to provide a better way forward as far as malnutrition is concerned. So you can use all these points in the questions related to the hunger and malnutrition. If you want to read more on hunger and malnutrition, you can follow the DNS dated 10th of December 2020, in which we have discussed the concepts of malnutrition in India's current status in much more detail. For further information, you can also follow the DNS dated 28th of November 2020, where also we have followed a detailed approach in identifying the issues related to the malnutrition in India. With this, now we will move to the next article for the day. This article was published on page 14 of Delhi Edition Hindu newspaper, that is the business page. This article talks about the fertilizer subsidy to cost 62% more on input cost. This is the report submitted by CRISIL. We'll go into this article in much detail, but the context of the article says that Centre's fertilizer subsidy bill is set to increase by 62% over the budgeted amount 1.3 lakh crore this fiscal. And this is not because of the rise in the international prices, but it is because of the rise in the raw material prices despite the lower demand. So demand as of now is not increasing all of a sudden. And in this case, the most important raw material is the natural gas. As all of you are well aware that the fuel prices in the country is on the rise. And this is not only subjected to the petrol and the diesel, but also applicable to the natural gas as well as liquefied petroleum gas, which is delivered to the households. The increase in fuel prices across the nation has created the rise in the raw material prices for the fertilizer industry. This has also increased the kind of subsidy which government provide to these industries in order to keep the prices or the final prices of fertilizers intact for the poor farmer. The relevance of this article comes from the fact that in the prelim examination, UPSC can ask questions on the different aspect of fertilizer. In the mains examination, UPSC has given a dedicated syllabus where it has asked about the issues related to the direct and indirect farm subsidies under GS paper 3. Our today's discussion would focus on the definition of subsidy, the types of subsidies we have, benefits which subsidies can provide, subsidies in agriculture in India, because as far as the GS paper 3 is concerned, the subsidies is only limited to the farm sector or the agriculture. If you are reading on the subsidies given to the industrial sector or service sector or in fact the export sector, you are mistaken and you are making blunder in the examination. So do not read these subsidies, only focus on the subsidies given for the farm sector in order to have right approach and right preparation. We will also look into the objective of providing the agriculture subsidies, and lastly we will look into one of the practice question as well. Well, according to the article, as we have seen that there is a 62% rise in the fertilizer subsidy given by the center. This is because of the unprecedented spike in the natural gas prices. And all this is happening when the sales of the fertilizer is declining because of the two reasons. First, there is a rise of organic farming in the country, and secondly, there is a changing of cropping pattern. And because of these two reasons, there is a decline in the supply as well as demand of the fertilizer, and despite that, the government is facing the dearth of rising fertilizer subsidy because of the rising natural gas prices. Now, this is what happened in the last 2-3 years. As you can see from this statement, this is given in the Economic Survey of India this year as well as the budget. According to this table, you can see that highest subsidy given by the government goes to the food sector or the food subsidy, followed by the subsidy given on the fertilizer, which includes both urea subsidy and nutrient based subsidy. Now, nutrient based subsidy is given for potash and phosphorus. So both these along with other micronutrients contribute about a third in the fertilizer subsidy. But 2/3 of the fertilizer subsidy comes from the urea sector. This entire subsidy is followed by the subsidy given on the LPG as well as the kerosene. So it is like this. Highest subsidy of central government goes to food, followed by fertilizer, followed by fuel. This is what you have to remember as far as prelim examination is concerned and this table is concerned. Now, subsidy is nothing but a money granted by state, public body to keep down the prices of a particular commodity. If it is not a commodity, there is no subsidy. So, government does not provide subsidy on services because services is a state duty. Take for example health services. So when a person go to a, let's say, primary health clinic, there is no subsidy given to that person, so he will not be charged anything by the doctor for availing those health services. Health checkup would be free, basic recommendation would be free, even some of the generic medicines would be free. But subsidy does not provide anything for free. Government share the cost or the price of that particular commodity. Subsidy affect the economy through the commodity market because it help in lowering the prices. This is the prime objective of subsidy. Because there are certain sections in the society, both farmers and the producers in the industrial and the service sector, who require lower cost of production because they have to make a ample amount of margin in their productivity. In order to provide this margin, government try to keep the prices of their inputs as low as possible through subsidy. Subsidies have been advocated for providing the redistributive objective. This simply means that the low prices of commodities, especially the food items, will also help government to meet its target under the public distribution system and end the problem of malnutrition and hunger. Subsidies are justified not only in countries like India but also in the developed nation because they provide the positive externalities, that is, their social benefits are above the private benefit. Take for example the subsidy provided to the farmer. Because of this, the small and the marginal farmer in the country are well off and they can practice their agriculture despite having the adversities of the monsoon or the weather. On the other hand, subsidy keep the prices low, which help the poor sections of the society to buy the subsidized food under National Food Security Act. And this has helped to reduce the overall hunger in the country. And that is the reason why we say that the social benefit of subsidy is far more than the private benefit, and this is the reason why subsidy is adopted. If you go through the syllabus of the UPSC, you will find that in General Studies Paper 3, as we have already discussed, they have categorized subsidies into two. The first one is the direct subsidies and the second one is the indirect subsidies. The direct subsidies are those which are direct cash incentives and they are paid directly to the farmer in order to make their product more competitive in the global market. As you can see, these direct subsidies include the cash grants, interest-free loans and direct benefit. If you are preparing for this examination, you are well aware of the fact that there is a scheme by the central government known by the name PM Kisan or PM Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, in which government provide a cash benefit to the farmer to the extent of 6,000 per year, which a farmer can deploy for producing or for buying the inputs for the farm. This is the kind of direct subsidy we are talking about. On the other hand, we have indirect subsidies, which are provided in the form of cheaper credit facilities or farm loan waivers or reduction in the irrigation or the electricity bill, fertilizer, seed, pesticides and many other. The indirect farm subsidy is the age-old practice in India. Since independence, we have been providing these kind of subsidies in one way or the other. And in fact, the subsidies which is provided for urea or other fertilizer is a kind of indirect subsidies. This classification will help you to write a good answer if it is asked in the mains examination. The benefits of subsidies and its policy are as follows. It provides inducing the higher consumption and the production. So once subsidy is provided, it will reduce the price. Reduction in the price will definitely increase the production on the part of farmers. And lower the price will also increase the consumption on the side of consumers or the end consumers. It helps in achieving the social policies as we have already talked about because it mostly target the poor sections of the society. It helps in controlling the prices to maintain the stability, and stability is important in the free play of market forces. Because once these prices are not kept at the position where they are supposed to be, it is going to hamper mostly the poor strata of the society. Subsidy is also important for the case where market alone cannot function or it has certain limitation. This is the approach which is taken by India since independence, because India is a welfare state according to the Indian constitution. And this clause has made the government liable to provide the cheaper food grains not only to certain sections of the society but also to the largest section of the society. And this is one of the reasons why two-thirds of India's population is covered under National Food Security Act. The subsidy also help in offsetting the market imperfections, including the internalization of externalities. It simply means that if certain forces in the market are trying to create monopoly of a particular product, so what government will do? Government will interfere here. They will provide the subsidy to other players or other manufacturer or other producers. And these producers will then kill out the concept of monopoly or the control of any specific forces in the market. This also finally helps the poor sections of the society. As far as subsidies to Indian agriculture is concerned, well, these are the important subsidies provided by either the state government or the central government. These are mostly known as the input subsidy. These subsidies are granted through the distribution of input at prices that are less than the standard market prices. It simply means that government will provide those inputs where it can lower the prices. So let's say the market price of 1 kg of a particular fertilizer is 100 rupees. But as this fertilizer is one of the input, what government will do? Government will provide this under the 100 rupee price tag. The market price was 100 rupees, so government will try to provide subsidy in such a manner that the final price of this product will remain less than 100, maybe 90, maybe 80, or even the 50% only. And the rest 50% is what is known as the subsidy by the government. And this is how a particular input becomes cheaper for the farmer, and that farmer can utilize that in order to raise their margin for final output. Hence, the magnitude of the subsidy is easy to calculate. It is always equal to the difference between the two prices for per unit of input distributed. So what are the two prices? The first price is the market price and the second price is the final price paid by the farmer. And the difference is the actual input subsidy. So government provide input subsidy for fertilizer, irrigation, power subsidy, seed subsidy, credit subsidy and many other. The second kind of subsidy is the price subsidy. It is nothing but a difference between the price of food grains at which FCI procure food grains from farmer and the price at which PCI sells either to the trader or to the public distribution system. The margin is the price subsidy provided by the government. Then we have the infrastructure subsidy, under which government provide the basic infrastructure to the farmers through the supply of roads, through the establishment of markets and many others. And lastly, government also provide the export subsidy so that poor farmer can get market access in the international level. The objective of agriculture subsidy are two. The first is the economic objective and second is the social objective. The economic objective includes the stimulating the agricultural production, because lower the prices of inputs means higher a farmer can invest in the agriculture production. It also helps in compensating the high cost of transportation from port to the factory to farm that raises the cost of production. So all these kind of costs are waived by the government through subsidy. As farmers get subsidies, they also invest more money and improve the soil quality and combat the soil degradation in case of fertilizer. There are certain farmers, actually the large section of farmers who are poor. They do not have money to buy fertilizer directly from the market. They are under the poverty. They lack access to credit, institutional credit, and they are not insured enough to take the losses, to bear the losses. And this is the other reason where agricultural subsidy meet the economic objective. And lastly, it allows farmer to try novel inputs and become familiar with their advantages. As we have discussed previously, these kind of subsidies help farmer to save on margins. And margins here means what farmer is producing at cost, and this cost is subtracted from the revenue a farmer is getting after selling the crop. This difference is what margin is all about. More the margin means more the private investment of a farmer on the field. More private investment means more agricultural growth of each farmer in the country, which will ultimately lead to the improvement of rural economy in India. That is the prime objective of the government on a macro level. As far as social objective of agricultural subsidy is concerned, it deals with the objective of transfer of income to farmer who are poor, live in remote disadvantaged areas, or even facing the both adversities. After this entire basic discussion, now you will be in a position to answer this question. The question says identifying the major objective of farm subsidies that we have already discussed. So you have to list down at least 4 to 5 different objectives of farm subsidies in India. This could be both economic, this could be social, if you can figure out some environmental, that too. Then differentiate between the direct and indirect subsidies to the agriculture and conclude with a logical conclusion. You should be aware that you should write the objective first and then differentiate, and do not go in the opposite direction. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article was published on first page of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the recent military pact which was signed by Russia and India together. Well, recently there was a 2+2 ministerial meeting which was took place between the defense minister as well as the foreign minister of both India and Russia, and both these nations have promised each other as well as on the international platform that they stand by each other in all kind of adversities or the situation. Recently, India's prime minister conducted a meeting with his Russian counterpart on the part of 21st annual India Russia summit. And on this part, India has signed numerous agreements. And one of the agreement included the deal for manufacturing AK-203 assault rifles, that too in India. Well, as far as UPSC examination is concerned, you are not required to go into each and every military pact which India signs with any other nation, or to remember each and every component of these important agreements. However, when some important event took place in the international affairs, that too with respect to India, that becomes a matter of relevance for UPSC examination. In 2018, UPSC asked this question in the prelim examination, where they talked about one of the important defense equipment, terminal high altitude area defense system known by the name THAAD, and they just asked why this was in the news. In one of the option, it was given an American anti-missile system. Well, this was in news in 2017 and 18 because India back then was looking into buying S-400 missile defense system. And this is one of the reason why you have to read such kind of agreements and defense deals. However, in brief format. Given the same consideration, we will look into what AK-203 is. Well, AK stands for Avtomat Kalashnikov. The most popular weapon from this class is AK-47. It is a rifle or a series of automatic rifle that is invented and produced in Russia, also erstwhile Soviet Union. And it was designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov. The best quality of these rifles is that they do not get jammed, and they can work even in the extreme conditions and terrains, and this is the reason why most of the AK-47 rifles and in the future AK-203 will be deployed in the Siachen Glacier where Indian forces are deployed. These rifles are going to replace the INSES rifles which are manufactured in India, and these rifles will be produced under Make in India program, and that too under defense production policy. This will make these rifles to be profitable, and India may also look into exporting these rifles in the future because India is also looking to expand and diversify its defense exports. Another quality of this rifle lies in the fact that this rifle can hit the target up to 400 meters with 100% precision. Apart from this, there is nothing required for you to understand as far as this rifle is concerned. So have this idea that what AK-203 is and what is the country of origin and why this rifle was in news. With this discussion in place, now I will leave you with this important question to practice. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. And with this, now we come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified, and I leave you with question of the day.